Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten. Andrew Carlson will be joining me later, but for now, just me. Um, sure, all you guys watched it. Wolves fall 118-103 to the Thunder. Solid fourth quarter from the group, but ultimately not. I don't think the final score uh, is representative of what that game was and what I felt was almost a carbon copy of what we saw in game one. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be here for a little bit tonight, talking about both games. Didn't have a show after the first game, but wanted to come on tonight and kind of recap the first two games of this series. Thought the Wolves played especially well in the first half. Very similar to game one. Thought they played very well in that second half, and both times it just kind of felt like the margin should be more in the Wolves' favor than it was. They were up by 4 points at the end of the first half of game one, and they were down by 8 at the end of the first half of game two. Looking at it, they got outscored 29-25 exactly in both the first and second quarter tonight. Thought the Wolves played especially well in that first half, enough to take a lead against the Thunder, and um, just one of the biggest things. OKC hit a ton of shots, a ton of tough shots in the first half. Um, and then what we saw in the third quarter was the exact same thing as we saw in the third quarter of game one, and really what the Thunder have done this entire season, and they just overwhelmed the Wolves. 35-21 in that quarter doesn't do justice to how overwhelming the Thunder were, um, and really just leaves you wondering how far the Wolves are from winning a series against a team like this. Not going to do the full season retrospective. Not even going to say this series is over because I don't think it is. Obviously, the chances of winning are slim, but I'm not the type to kind of totally give up on a series, even if they're. I think the Wolves have a better chance of winning this than they did have just because they got home games left than they did after two games of Dallas, and that's kind of the main. If you want to be negative, that's the main thing. Is they've made the Western Conference Finals twice in the past 2 years. That's a really impressive feat. Not a lot of teams do that. In most, I would probably say most teams have not done that in their history. Have made the Final Four back-to-back seasons, but now they're down 0-2 for the second straight year in the West Finals. Um, and we'll leave the big picture thoughts for the offseason. The like what should they do about that? But for the offseason, we're going to kind of focus on um, what happened in this game and what happened in these first two. Um, yeah, just trying to sift through my thoughts. I thought the biggest thing, just thinking about what were the advantages the Wolves potentially had or the negatives that Oklahoma City Thunder had. And all season was kind of like, obviously Shea's amazing. He was awarded MVP yesterday, but they don't really have like a true second scorer next to him. Um, and in that showed up in the Denver series. Jalen Williams was very up and down offensively in that series, and tonight he was just awesome. Um, I'm not even sure what the Wolves could do about the performance Jalen Williams had in this game. He took a lot of tough shots and made a lot of tough shots. Um, Maybe they're not tough because these are the type of shots he can hit, but man, they hit a lot of contested mid-range shots in that first half. And obviously, when Shea does that, you tip your cap to him and or you try to force him off those spots that he's so good at. But if Jalen Williams is going to hit those shots, I'm not sure where the path is for the Wolves to win this series, and that is kind of the overarching thought I had about this series. I'm going to go over all the places where I'm like, this is something that the Thunder are overperforming or the Wolves are underperforming based on what we would have thought coming into the series. And given how good the Thunder are as a baseline, like them losing this type of stuff is just killer for the Wolves. A second player going off like Jillian Williams did is the first one. We saw the Wolves start to double Shea, hard double Shea, and the Thunder knocked down a few open shots. And that's just it's kind of if Shea's going to be able to make the right pass and the Wolves are going to try to force it into other players' hand, if those guys are going to hit shots, and it's going to be really tough for the Wolves to win this series. Um, Another one, rebounding. The Wolves won the rebounding battle. They had an extra 4 offensive rebounds, but second chance points were still in the favor of the Thunder, 14-12, and maybe that has more to do with the shooting percentages than anything else. But the Wolves just that's got to be a place that the Wolves dominate. Um, if they want to win this series, they got to dominate on the glass. We saw it at points in the Lakers series. We never saw it really during the Warrior series. Um, and we have not seen it through two games um, through this series. I'm going to go talk about each individual player a bit later, but obviously Rudy is the first place you look at for that. Just has not been a big enough factor in the series. Um, Turnovers, this one is probably gone right about where you'd expect. The Wolves were always going to need to limit turnovers. They had 14 tonight. That's not awful, um, but it led to a bunch of points off turnovers. 22 points off turnovers for the Thunder compared to 10 for the Wolves. Thunder only turned it over 8 times, two of which are shot clock violations. Um, the Wolves didn't have a ton of live ball turnovers, honestly. A lot of their turnovers were dead balls. So 9 live ball turnovers for the Wolves. 22 points on off of 9 live ball turnovers is just too many. So Wolves got to do a better job with transition defense. Um, Transition offense, another place the Wolves just have not been good enough. Need to really all season have been a very inefficient fast court team. Obviously, the Thunder are going to beat you up in that area, but you gotta Wolves have to do a better job pushing the ball when they can. Don't let this Thunder defense set up on you, um, because the Wolves have struggled to score against it through two games. And when you do, you can't turn the ball over when you push the ball, and they've just done none of that. It's all kind of none of that has gone right. Um, and then the biggest thing I know it's really hard to talk about, but you just gotta make shots. They're not making shots, and obviously the Thunder deserve a ton of credit for that. The defense is the biggest reason why the Wolves are missing shots. But another 11 of 39 from three. How different is this game if that's 15 of 39? Let's see what if I can do quick math there. 15 of 39 is 38%. So what you'd expect. If the Wolves had an extra 12 points from three, who knows what that limits the Thunder on defense based on the rebounds. I just think that if the Wolves are going to win both games at Target Center or get back into the series or whatever, they just got to make shots. That's the first. That's like the first point, and that to me that signals that the Thunder are gigantic favorites to win this series now. Because if that's like the main, just make shots. If that's just the main, like the main counterpoint you have, you're probably in a tough spot. And the Wolves are. Um, and then maybe just overall sloppiness, just being loose with the ball, just not being effective enough, not just not playing well enough. I don't like it's a weird thing to harp on, but like they just got to play better. They just got to make more shots. And even if they do, maybe that won't be enough. It may not be, but they're just not even giving themselves a chance with the way they're playing. Overall, offense was I guess better tonight, maybe not, but I thought the defense and again, Oklahoma City deserves a ton of credit. They were carving up the Wolves, hitting tough shots, generating open shots. Um, the Wolves just didn't do enough defensively to stop them. All right, let's go kind of down the list. I'll start with the top players for the Wolves and go down the list. Anthony Edwards thought he had a solid enough game. It's hard to guy has 32 points on 26 shots. It's hard to really ultimately he was their best player tonight. So it's hard to had 6 assists and 0 turnovers. That's huge. 9 rebounds. Thought Ant was great tonight. Unfortunately, the OKC on the other end was Shea was just better than him. Um, Maybe that's not Ant's fault. That's as much about the defense and the but ultimately I just kind of felt like if the Wolves were going to win this series, Ant had to at the very least play up to Shea's level and maybe outduel him in this series. And through two games, Shea has been their better player. Um, it's hard to overcome any series that you don't have the best player. But what we've clearly seen is obviously Oklahoma City has by far the better supporting cast. So I mean, it's just it's just death. Like if you it it's death if you don't have the best supporting cast and you don't have the best player. you're looking at a short series in that sense. So somewhere we gotta either Ant's got to play up to Shea's level, or some of the Wolves role players have to step up and start playing better, because otherwise it's hard to imagine this series coming back to Minnesota for Game 6. Um, I do feel confident that the Wolves will be able to win two of the next three. I honestly do. I think this team has shown enough to to feel good about that. But winning 4 out of 5 to take this series is a really tall task. On defense, just Ant probably wasn't good enough. It's always hard to tell watching live if about defense. So probably have to go back and watch that. But um, everyone put out the photo of him looking sternly, and it's good for social media. But I don't think he. I don't know. It's hard to. I'm juggling with like. I thought he played really well tonight. The stats look great, but fair or not, and I would probably call this unfair. They need him to go supernova. They need him to go just absolutely bonkers in this series to win. Um, and you can't. And the problem with that is he can't just like start barreling into people or just start like going ham, because it's impossible to do that against the Thunder defense. Like if you just force it, it's going to lead to turnovers. He had 0 turnovers tonight. If you'd have told me he scored 32 points, 6 assists, 9 rebounds, and 0 turnovers, I would think the Wolves had a shot to win this game. Um, but they didn't. 1 of 9 for 3 is tough. Weren't fantastic looks, but he's been knocking down tough shots all year. So would have liked to see more of those go down. Um, but I think defensively they need a bit more connected Anthony Edwards to win this series. They need him to be some sort of locked on defender, because that's the biggest thing I think that stands out with Oklahoma City in the first couple of series. I mean, the Lakers series especially. The Wolves had a lot of weak links defensively to attack. They had like Luka or Reeves in the first series, and even with the Warriors playing shorthanded, even as a good defense, they didn't have like a rim protector or a true Anthony Edwards stopper, so Ant was able to get to the rim fairly easily. OKC does not have a weak link defensively. They don't. They had 4 guys either named to all defense teams or at least get votes. The weakest defender is probably SGA, and that's all probably mostly because that's just he's doing so much on offense. He can't be their best defender, and it also says more about the rest of the team because SGA got all defense votes. He's a good defender. So it's not there's no one to attack. There's no weak link, and obviously their bench they played 5 guys off the bench, uh, really just 7 guys. With Aaron Wiggins playing 10, Isaiah Joe playing 3 minutes, and Kenrich Williams playing about a minute and a half. Um, None of those guys are weak links defensively, um, and so there's nowhere for Ant to get switched on. It's just such a different series that than than the previous series, and it's just a taller task. Um, I don't think if we want to do the big picture game, I don't think there's any shame in losing this series. Yes, we have liked to see some better play, or if this thing does continue to trend like it has, would we like to be a bit closer? Yeah, but I just I've come around on this Oklahoma City team just being extremely good, championship ready. I did not feel like that really up until game 4 and 5 of the Denver series when they're down in both games and they come back and take a stranglehold. That was the biggest thing for me with OKC was just like the mental toughness, the vets. I just kind of didn't feel like they had enough of those guys, and they clearly or they've so far been extremely good and been able to be the professional team, and that's what we've seen. They've just been the more mentally prepared team, the more physical team, for better or for worse, the more connected team, really just every area. There's no signs that this team is a young team. Honestly, the Wolves, uh, with the ones who have vets, have been the ones that have shown signs of being not ready for the moment, and maybe that'll change at Target Center. And that's really the only reason I'm holding out some level of hope for the series is just that we haven't played at Target Center yet. The Wolves have been fairly good at Target Center in this postseason. We got to at least give them a chance to get back home and see what they can change. I do think that the Wolves need to make some sort of major change to their game plan. Um, they got to, I think, hard double Shea Moore, and if the OKC um, role players hit shots, then that might just have to be what it is because I don't think their game plan the first two games has been close to working well enough. Um, because as much as I want to come here and say, oh, they just got to make shots and they'll have a chance, I don't think that's a realistic way to win this series because yeah, I do think they can start to hit shots and start to win games. I don't think that that's the only adjustment you need to make to win 4 out of the next 5 to win this series. Um, so yeah, let's keep going with talking about all the players. Rough Julius Randle game. He's 2 for 11 from the field, 0 of 3 from three. Just had a great first half of game one, and really has been non-existent ever since then. Has not been able to get the bully ball game going. 0 assists, or excuse me, I'm looking at it wrong. 5 assists, 4 turnovers, 5 rebounds. Just it's been closer to the bad Julius Randle in this series. Um, they weren't able to get him the ball, and to me, I almost didn't have a huge problem with it because I just felt like OKC has answers for everything that he's trying to do. The the post ups are just not working. They just aren't. They have so many good defenders to run at Julius and to keep him contained. So many of these post ups are just ending in turnovers. Um, to me, the post ups that were working with Ant was the only guy posting up that was finding plays, but I just don't think the Randall post ups are going to be that profitable in this series. It's gonna be it's a tough matchup for him, and he needs to play better, and they need to put him in better spots. But I'm not sure that this is going to be the series for him. Speaking of not series for him, Rudy Gobert. This is just the ultimate Rudy Gobert conundrum, and it shines every time you get this far in the playoffs with him. Everyone wants to point out his defense for whatever reason. I continue to think his defense is not at all the problem with what Rudy's going on. He's a fantastic defender. He can defend pretty much every sort of any sort of action with any big. If you try to any rim protecting big, getting them away from the rim is the goal, and that's how you can how you can find success against the 4-time defensive player of the year. But ultimately, the defensive end of the court is not the problem. It's really on offense, and it's becoming such an issue, especially with a team like OKC. They're just packing the paint, and Rudy just makes it so easy on them to do so. Um, he scores 5 points, has a putback or two, 9 rebounds. Just thought there's too many rebounds that he wasn't able to corral. Just has not been a force. And I wonder if Rudy Gobert starting center on a championship team, the margin of error is just so small. And if you're going to do it, you need to have him generating offense or at least just not being a liability. And he started to show that down the stretch of the regular season and just has not shown it very much at all. I mean, if we could get that Laker game from him, that game 5 Laker game from him every game, that's what they need from him to win this series. And it's hard to see it and it's in there. But I don't think taking him off the court is the answer either because they can't defend well enough with him on the bench. And that's just such a key. It's just the classic Rudy Gobert conundrum. You take him off the you take him off the floor and you're not good enough defensively. And with him on the floor, you're not good enough offensively. Um, so I don't know what you do there because as I say, you can't bench him. And stands to reason that sending him off in the offseason would also not be the right move because a big reason the Wolves are even where they got. The Wolves are not in the Western Conference Finals at all without Rudy Gobert. Um, but that's an offseason topic. If they want to try to move off of Rudy, they're going to need to find some defense elsewhere because this defense is not good enough. Um, without Rudy. Another player that's just kind of a it's an interesting conundrum is Mike Conley, who actually played pretty well. The Wolves, with Mike on the bench, have not been able to generate nearly good enough offense. Mike finishes a plus 14 in this game, meaning the 20 minutes he sat, the Wolves lost those minutes by 29. That's just I mean, if you're losing a more than a point a minute, you're on pace to lose by 50 plus. Like they got just torched in the Mike on the bench minutes, which speaks to the regular season when people wanted Mike out of the rotation. The numbers aren't going to fly off the page for Mike, but the Wolves offense, the only spurts of good offense they had in this game were with Mike playing well. So it's hard to but on the flip side on the defensive end, they were attacking Mike like all players like all they do. Mike defends well for his size, but he's just like physicality wise outmatched. So with Mike, it's hard to defend with him on the court right now, and it's almost impossible to play offense with him on with him off the court. And with Rudy, it's the exact opposite. And it just kind of feels like the good when the Wolves are good, those two aspects are balancing each other out. The 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 Mike offense is balancing out the brutal Rudy offense, and Rudy's defense is covering up for Mike's lack of size and physicality on defense. In this series, it's just been the opposite, where it just feels like both of those holes, they're not scoring enough because of Rudy, and they're not defending well enough, in part due to Mike. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if they got to go away from Rudy. That seems tough. And going away from the one player that had a great plus minus in this game seems even worse. So I don't know. It's gonna be I'm struggling to find lineup answers in that sense. It's going to be up to Finch to kind of figure that out. That'll be the goal of the next 2 days. If they can win Game 3, then you're at least somewhat back in the series. I guess you probably got to win Game 4 too, because coming back from down 3-0, 3-1 with two of those games in OKC feels like an impossible task. But winning two straight after getting walloped also feels like a tall task. Last starter, Jaden McDaniels. Um, Offensively was fairly solid. 8 of 15, 4 of 8. Um, but just not quite impactful enough on Shea defensively. Certainly, I think they'll try to mix up what they're doing with their coverages on Shea. Um, not, I just think fouls are such a big part of Jaden's success. When he's able to get away from fouls, he's a fantastic player. And when the fouls are coming, it's really tough. The other part of Jaden is he's a super emotional player. And that's really a good thing um, for most of the time. It fuels him in the trash talking and everything he does out there on the court. I know people don't see it because he looks like he's got the stone face and the like the classic meme with Jaden happy, and he's just completely still. He said one time in the locker room, "Well, that's just because you guys don't see me at home." So he is a very emotional player, and with Shea and the fouling and the grifting, if you want to call it that, it's just a tough series for Jaden defensively, and we saw it on that play where he gets the technical or the flagrant one where Shea hooks him twice. I think if you want to go in on Jaden, hey Andrew, what's up?
Ryan, tough one.
Yeah, I'm going down the list of players, and I've gotten to all the starters but Jaden. So I was going in, not going to do the referee rant,
Yep.
but Jaden is clearly getting frustrated by the SGA of it all, the ethical Hooper of it all. Um, he on the play where he gets the flagrant, he Shea hooks him twice. Um, just I completely understand why he's frustrated by that play. You see him turn to the ref and kind of in classic Jaden fashion pushes SGA on that play. As an emotional person, I don't hate it, and even as like it didn't affect the outcome of the game, so whatever. Um, but clearly, Jaden's emotions are getting the best of him in that sense. And generally, emotional Jaden is good Jaden. But in this case, it's not. And I worry that the foul trouble of it all is really just not letting him thrive on defense.
Yeah, he's getting worn down clearly, and frankly, if I'm Jade McDaniels at this point in time, um, my frustrations are pretty warranted. I mean, I think that you're one of at least in game two, you're frankly one of the only players that showed up. And I know you've maybe gone down the starter list, but um, I mean, at this point in time, the center that you're playing next to in Rudy Gobert has been completely ineffective in a series that he's needed to be effective in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't have this from Rudy in this series, especially when you've lost both games now by 10 plus points. He needs to be a stabilizing force when he comes in the game. And frankly, at this point, it hasn't happened. And when you're Jaden, like Shea's getting by you a little bit. He might be getting the best of you. He might be getting those hooks. But during the season, 9 times out of 10, Rudy's behind you to help to help with that. And in this series, he's getting tied up. And when that shot is going up, and maybe you force the first miss, he's not there to get the rebound. And so if I'm Jaden, like at this point, man, screw it. Like I'm gonna throw him to the ground, and I'm gonna just prove a point. And frankly, at this point in time, like I'm kind of on the side where this maybe should have happened in game one.
I
Um,
mean, it did. Ant threw a ball at him in the first
like
quarter.
and I think I think it should have been a little bit more like I think it should have like this type of physical foul should have happened in game one where you have to set a tone for the series, man. And you're coming back home to Minneapolis now down 0-2. And it's one of those things where if you're not showing that, yes, you're a little bit frustrated, but two, you're sending a message to the people behind you of I need a little bit of help here. Like I can't like, yes, Shea Gilgeous Alexander, like for whatever you want to say, yes, he might be a free throw merchant. He might dive after whatever contact he might draw. I need some help getting the rebound after the shot goes up. And I need some help a little bit on the contest if he does maybe get by me. Because the Wolves do a really, as Chris Finch has said all season, they've done a great job forcing the first miss. Um, but once again, these second chance points. It's like the second chance points disparity was 2 points tonight. It was 14-12. But it felt like Oklahoma City's 14 carried so much more gravity tonight than the Wolves 12 did. And those are killers. And Jaden's 22 points. I believe had 22 points. Um, it was good. Like, but at the end of the day, his frustrations are warranted, man. Like I don't hold it against him. Like his temper maybe got the best of him there in the fourth quarter, but I'm not going to sit here and say that what he did was completely wrong or incorrect.
Yeah, I guess if we wanted, it feels disingenuous not to at least touch on the Shea free throw thing. Personally, I don't think the officials are the reason the Wolves are down 2-0. I don't
No,
think the Wolves eat, but specifically the way Shea gets to the line, here I'm not even gonna go down if they are fouls or not. Personally, some of them are, some of them aren't. He does a good job of accentuating what is and what's not. But if someone can't at least understand why opposing fans and opposing players aren't pissed, you're just not. I don't think you're living in the same reality I am. It's very easy to understand why it's frustrating. They play an extremely physical style of defense, and then Shea gets like a ticky tack rule book. I don't understand why those things are. I thought there was a couple like missed layups that the Wolves were fouled on early in the game. I don't get it. It's not worth talking about it beyond that, to be honest, because it's not the reason the Wolves are losing the game. I mean, free throws are the reason they're losing the game. The OKC was 29th in free throw differential because of the physical style they play with. They're kind of the reason why they are okay with that is because they feel like the points off turnovers they generate far outweighs the free throws they give up. And the Wolves only had two more free throw attempts in this game, and I believe they shot fewer free throws in game one. That's just death. You have to at least have an advantage in the free throw line. Again, if you want to blame the officials for that, great. I would probably maybe point more towards the 3-point attempts, although the Wolves only had 6 more tonight. Um, or the Wolves just got to do a better job getting to the free throw line. And honestly, the fact that they had like half of their free throws in the second half. They had 25 free throws in the second half and only one in the first half. So they just got to get to the line better. I do think that they did a better job like getting into the paint and like probing the defense a little bit better. I thought their 3-point attempts were better tonight, but they still didn't go in. And I know it I already said this, but I'll have you touch on it. I know it sounds like lame analysis, but the way the Wolves are shooting, they've just not given themselves any chance to win any series in the this far in the playoffs. And so in the first, I do think there's obviously the Thunder deserve a ton of credit for the reason. It's not just in a vacuum the Wolves are missing these shots. But the Wolves are missing some wide open ones too. And I bet you when the tracking data comes out, it's going to say the Wolves underperformed their shot chart again. Um, and I don't know what to do about that because as much as the Thunder are forcing it, I don't think that they're the only reason why the Wolves are. I just think it's bad luck or variance or shot making skill. I don't know.
Sure, 100%. This is the analysis you come to this live stream for: is that the Wolves just have to play better at the end of the day. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in order to be a playoff team that makes the NBA Finals, you need one bench player at minimum to step up and be a hero that helps support your top two options. And the Wolves have not had that, and it has been a pretty much by a long shot, unapparent. Um, Whether it's shooting the basketball, whether it's playing defense, and to your point, Ryan, like I'm sitting there watching the game with a couple of friends tonight, and it's the third quarter. It even gets to the fourth quarter in garbage time, and they're getting it down to 10 points. And it's like, where was this offense in the first two quarters? I mean, you're getting to the basket with relative ease. Maybe the Thunder have let off the gas a little bit, but the players who you want to get to the paint and score the basketball are now getting to the paint. It's Naz Reid. He's being more deliberate. It's Ant. He's being more deliberate. It's Jaden. He's being more deliberate. Like Nikhil is being more deliberate. Like, where did we lose our way in the first couple quarters to where this was not the offensive strategy? And again, maybe to OKC's credit, they're bearing down a little bit more and getting into their stance a little bit more. But like at the end of the day, I just don't really buy that. Like the Wolves got here, and I've tweeted this out multiple times, and whether it's on my own personal account or whether it's the Canis account, it's like your bench is elite. You have three pieces that should be starters on other NBA rosters, or can be starters on other NBA rosters. It's been a major reason as to why you are here, and the fact that it has folded in a series where it's really two similar teams. I mean, two teams who make a lot of their hay on defense. Maybe OKC a little bit more on the defensive side, the Wolves a little bit more on the offensive side, whatever it may be. It, they have 8 guys who can start on NBA rosters, and these are two teams who, under the new CBA, are built to win championships. Like this is the formula. You have 8 guys who are starters who can win, who can help you win games. And so far, OKC's bench has shown up more so than the Wolves bench has. And for whatever reason, whether it's former 6 man of the year Naz Reid going 3 of 8 again tonight, and Dante I think again went 3 of 8. Like Dante has to have a 20-point night one night. Nas has to have a 20-point night. Like these are guys who need to step up and play better. Like at the end of the day, like that, it sounds stupid and it sounds like a bullshit reason, but at the end of the day, like you just have to play better. You really do. Like you have to play better. You have to be more aggressive. You can't be standoffish on offense. And Julius going 2 for 11 tonight. Yeah, sure, that was a factor. Like maybe, but you have a good enough roster from 1 through 8 to be able to pick that up and bring it into the fourth quarter and be in a position to either bring the game to a tie or be able to close the game. I thought in game one, if you make 3 more threes within the first 3 quarters, you're in a position to close the game out in the fourth quarter. Tonight, if you make 2 more shots in the fourth quarter, you're in a position to come back and crawl yourself back into this game. It really is in these series a matter of just a couple going down.
Yeah, I said I thought both first half they played have been very good, and both times I thought the margin should have been more in the Wolves' favor. Both times, and then basically the same carbon copy third quarter where they just get overwhelmed, and that's been
35-21,
yeah,
the third quarter.
it was worse than that. Um, I just think that I don't know, like the it makes sense why you get overwhelmed by the OKC defense. It's not just the best in the league; it might be the best in a decade or plus or more. I know we kind of said that about the Wolves defense last year, and it's true, but the Wolves last year and the Thunder have even topped it this year. Are two of the better defenses of this last era of the NBA, and the Wolves are just clearly getting flustered by it. Nas and Dante, Nikhil had a solid enough game tonight, but didn't really guard his cousin all that well. Again, some of the foul calls on Nikhil were annoying. But yeah, Nas and Dante have just been aside from a couple quarters from Nas, both of those guys this entire playoff run have been have been pretty putrid. It makes me wonder what kind of contract Nas will get this offseason.
Nas has played his way out of a little bit of cash, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
And
obviously Julius has done the opposite, but um,
I know Dane's mentioned it on his pod a little bit too, but I think um, the questions about Rudy have to be asked as well. I think that this
yeah,
is a series where I mean, you have to point at Rudy a little bit. I mean, there's so many times where Rudy was on the floor tonight. I mean, this is never going to show up in the box score, just on the straight up rebounding count of things. I'm just going to double check and I mean, maybe my cause is substantiated. Maybe it's not. It might just be more of an eye test thing. I mean, OKC out rebounds you 42-41. It's not, but it's the gravity of some of the offensive rebounds that OKC was able to get with Rudy on the floor tonight, and it begs the question of how effective can Rudy Gobert really be in a playoff series against a another dive big like Isaiah Hartenstein? Um, because tonight I think that was tonight I think was a little bit of an indictment on where that's going. I mean, I think game one you could say, okay, I mean, he made some really good defensive plays in the second and third quarter, and kept the Wolves in the game for a lot of the time. I think in obviously the Lakers series, you had the closeout game, the 27-24. Um, I think too in Golden State, like he had his moments. It didn't necessarily appear in the box score, but he was effective defensively. But I think this is the series where you really have to say like at what point in time is Rudy Gobert a floor raiser and a ceiling holder, and certainly a floor raiser where you make back to back Western Conference Finals, certainly an elevator of the franchise, and he's gotten you to a certain point with the defense that's been around him, but there were too many times tonight where backbreaking offensive rebounds went to Oklahoma City with him on the floor, and that just Rudy's mo is that can happen every once in a while, but it can't happen too many times. And I think whether it was the first half or the second half, especially crawling back in the game too, um, you just had too many of those. It's to make it worth the while, and that was I think a big reason as to why they maybe coughed up what could have been a little bit of a comeback and a little bit more of an interesting game down the stretch, especially in the fourth quarter when you pull it to 10 points. It just too many backbreakers, and credit to the Thunder. You know when you it's just as much of a Wolves minus as it is a Thunder plus
mhm.
when you make a little bit of a run and I'm sitting there the whole time. I'm like, I'm I'm just waiting for the Wolves 7-0 run. Just like one 7-0 run. Like just bring it to within 6 points, within 5 minutes. Like just one 7-0 run. But the Thunder make winning plays. That's just what they do. And whether it's overwhelming the Wolves front court or being able to stop the backcourt from getting in the paint, they've been able to do it all series. And if the Wolves don't take two straight here in Minneapolis, then it's curtains.
Yeah, it's a classic Rudy Gobert conundrum where um it's just so dumb that people like attack his defense because it's been phenomenal all series. Um, but their offense suffers with him on the court, especially against this OKC defense that is just packing the paint. Um,
It's the
but
rebounds.
you can't take him off the court because they can't defend with him off the court. Um, so what do you do? I mean, do you trade him because That's the same conundrum. They can't. They Wolves are not good enough defensively with Rudy Gobert off the court. They're just not. So you got to bring in another someone to defend. Well, trust me, it's hard to find rim protectors that also space the floor. OKC's got two of them. It seems like. Um, would love if Rudy could hit the same little push shot that Hartenstein has. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, the rebounding is just not good enough from him. If the the Wolves would be tied 1-1 if they could get that Lakers game five from Rudy every single game. I don't know where that came from, and it was the only time he's played like that this entire postseason. That if they're gonna to me, if they're gonna win the title with Rudy Gobert on a roster, or at least as like the starting center on a roster, you're gonna need that game from him like multiple times in a playoff series of this
Yes.
caliber. And they've
Yes.
instead of that, they haven't even gotten it multiple times this whole run. And so
They've
I don't
gotten
know
it
what
once,
yeah.
frankly. They've
Yeah.
gotten it once.
And he's
And
had other fine enough games, but like just not he hasn't been good enough. I mean, that's probably the story of most of the roster, but just hasn't been good enough.
you just look at individual rebounding, right? I mean, let's look at Oklahoma City for a second. Like Jalen Williams, he has 10 rebounds. Like the Wolves first of all didn't have a single player that hit double digits in terms of rebounds. Jalen Williams has 10. Isaiah Hartenstein has
He was
8.
so good, man.
Oh,
Jalen
he's
Williams,
he's he's been
like that
awesome all
was
series.
he was the reason while watching the Denver series, I felt good about Minnesota's chances in a series like this, and he's been the reason why they have had no shot in these first two games. He hit so many tough. It's tough watching Jalen Williams hit like step back long twos over defenders, and then watch the Wolves brick wide open threes. Like it's just,
Hmm.
ugh,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's really what it is. Like Jalen Williams had 10 rebounds. He had 9 defensive rebounds, and not a single player on the Wolves matched that. I mean, Ant had 7. He had 9 rebounds for the game. Rudy had 9 rebounds, man, and 5 of them were defensive. I mean,
yeah, just not
that
five
that that
defensive
that's
rebounds is
there
just
it is.
not good enough.
Like right there. You have to if you're Rudy Gobert, I'm like in this series, like you have to have 10 defensive rebounds. You have to end a possession if you are Rudy Gobert 10 times. And I get that that's difficult. I get that that's a hard thing. But you're Rudy Gobert, man. Like you're one of the best defensive players of this entire generation of basketball players. You have to find a way to end possessions by yourself in these series and be able to stand out. Um, and you have 5 defensive rebounds out of your 9. He granted again biological process of elimination. 4 of those are offensive, but I mean, like again, like let's go down Oklahoma City. Like Hartenstein has 8, Dort has 8, uh, Shea has, I mean, 3, but again, all 3 of them are defensive. Like they're gang rebounding, and then you go look at the Wolves. Like Gobert 9, 5 of them defensive. Ant had 9, 7 of them were defensive. Fair enough. Nas had 8, 7 of those were defensive. I thought Nas was in position to get way more than 8 defensive rebound or 7 defensive rebounds and 8 rebounds total. Um, but those are your 3 highest rebound getters, man. Like you just
Mhm.
that there's your game and there's your series. Frankly, if this is one that ends up going down as an Oklahoma City win rather convincingly, which I think this is, frankly, where my mind is right now, I think that's kind of where we're headed. Um, that's going to be the story, and that's not to take anything away from the Wolves season and how they've done and whatnot. You can clip this if the Wolves end up winning this in 6 or 7 or whatever it might be, but that's a series. I mean, you have to be able to control the glass. The Wolves learned it 3 years ago when they played Memphis, um, and if they have to learn it again when they play Oklahoma City, maybe it helps team construction in the offseason and we see a little bit of a pivot. But I don't know, man. Like that's a problem. Rudy Gobert getting 9 boards and 5 of those being defensive is that's the game tonight, frankly, for me.
Yeah, Jaden McDaniels 2 rebounds, 5 fouls. Both of those numbers are just incredibly telling with the type of game. I think people will see the 8 of 15. I don't think it was a good Jaden game, to be honest. Offensively, it was fine, but just wasn't impactful enough defensively. Um, let's talk about Ant here. Um, thought he was good, but before we dive into the game, he declined to speak to media, according to John Krasinski tonight, after getting fined $50,000 for the F bomb the other night. I do want to talk about this a little bit because Ant's relationship with the media has been piss poor this entire season and maybe his entire career. Maybe people don't care. Um, I certainly don't want to get up here and be self righteous about Ant's biggest flaw is not talking to me like that. It's a bad look, but I don't know. I think him not talking to media after a playoff game is a really is a big. He's skipped out on a lot of playoff or excuse me practice availabilities specifically before the Golden State series. They had three straight practice days and he declined to speak all 3 days. That's a tough look. Um, and now he's didn't. And I think him declining to speak after a playoff game is another. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's just a. I do think that the $50,000 fine for the one single f bomb, not as like the prominent part of a sentence, I think that was kind of crap by the
Mhm.
NBA. I know they've made it very clear they're trying to get that out of his vernacular, and I get that. I thought that was and so if that fine is the is really the main reason why he skipped and not the outcome of the game, then I guess I get that to a certain extent. But when Tyrese Halliburton after which game of the game 3 of the Cleveland series, when they got blown out, Halliburton declined to speak to the media, and it became a whole story for locally there
He
from
declined to speak on
multiple.
both losses, actually. I believe. I think it was game 3, but I think it was another one too that he declined to speak, and that became a pretty big story.
Became a big story, at least locally. That there people were talking about it over and over and over. They asked him at the practice the next day. They asked him at the post game after they won. He more or less said he regretted that decision, and I was kind of sitting there thinking, man, this is a lot different than what's going on in Minnesota because Minnesota's best players declined to speak to the media a lot. Um, and again, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe people just don't care, and I kind of understand that and rather talk about the game. But I do think after a loss like this, it's a bit of a bad look. You look like a front runner, um, and I think you got to go up there and if you want to go up there and know and like Marshawn Lynch the thing, I get it. If you want to go up there and be like, hey, I thought I'm just trying not to get fined, and one word answer everything, that's great. But like, I think, let me get your thoughts. Did like, do you care as someone who also occasionally gets to talk to Ant, or is this like I'm being as I'm being too self indulgent?
Yeah, I mean, I could go both ways on this. I think that um, I'll go where you're coming from, Ryan, because I think that's kind of
You
where
don't
I
have to.
lean. I know,
You
but
can.
I think it's where I lean more because I think that if you're a leader, if you're the leader of this team and you're supposed to be, I mean, I get that he wants to kind of dodge the face of the league allegations, and that's fine. But you're for sure the
That's
face of the
narrative crap.
Timberwolves. Yeah,
Whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. You're the face of the Timberwolves. Um, and when you're down 0-2, you have to show some form of accountability for what's been happening. Whether it's your fault, whether it's your teammates' fault. Like Rudy's, if Rudy was asked to talk tonight, he would do it. Did he? I don't know. Did he talk tonight? I haven't seen podium yet. Um,
I haven't seen either.
if Rudy was asked to talk tonight, like Rudy would do it. Like Rudy is notoriously like pretty solid at talking to the media, even after he has a historically bad game, and he's someone who gets dragged on social media all the time. Um, the accountability has to be there, and I get it. Like at this point in time, like I guess the part of me that's maybe anti, and if I were to play devil's advocate, is like it's gonna roll some eyes, but he's still 23 years old. Like he's learning the ropes of speaking to the media still. I mean, I get like 5 years in, like you're like, okay, what? Like what? He still is like, yeah, he
Hey,
is.
I get that, but if we're gonna use that excuse, then wrap this thing up. The
Sure,
season is over. The series is done. You like they need their 23-year-old to act like a player in the prime of his career. That's how
sure,
this is
sure.
set up.
And you know
If
what?
he's
Like
going to
that's
continue to act like a 23-year-old like that, then next season's toast. And like we're so far. Like I don't I agree with your point. Like, but
that's the thing, Ryan. It's like that's
fair
my
or not,
argument. It's
they
like
need him to be more than that.
is that, like, building up to right now is, like, what I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes out of all these separate players, like, this team might just not be ready yet, and we talked about this team going to the finals so many times, like, the vibes were so good after the Lakers series, the Golden State series set them up to be in the Western Conference Finals where they could maybe make a run. Like, this team might just not be ready yet. They don't have the bench to maybe score and get to the finals yet. Like, you need to have a bench player that can get there. You need to have a leader that's accountable and speaks to the media as to what went wrong and what went right, like, after every single game. And maybe they don't have that. Like, maybe they don't have any of those things. And frankly, like, at this point, like, it may disappoint a lot of people to hear that. And I wouldn't blame you for being disappointed after hearing that. But it might just be like a very, like, harsh truth at this point. And I'm with you. I think, like, it all three times you decline to speak, yeah, that's garbage. I think, like, one of those three times, like, I wouldn't be as disappointed about that. Like, you speak one of those three times that you're maybe requested to. Um,
But like
Tonight for sure,
no,
you go down 0-2, you have to. Like, you go down 0-2 in the Thunder series, like, and you decline, you have to speak. You
with
just do.
with the practice thing, no one gets requested like 2 days in a row. If they have three straight practice days, the writers make sure to like because we don't want to talk to anyone 2 days in a
Right.
row other than Finch. And to be honest, you can start to see the questions wear thin when you've talked to the same guy 3 days in a row without an actual game.
Well,
But
but that's what I'm saying. It's just like agree to one of those times. You know what I mean? Like,
mhm.
if you're like your second day in a row, like your third day in a row, like, agree to it once. Like, just do it and get it done with. And especially if you go down, like, especially if you go down 0-2, you just have to do it. I mean, you're a leader of a team. I understand that it's not ideal circumstances. You had the thing come out. I think it was Mark Spears that reported, like, you're up till 3 a.m. the night before looking at film. Like all that stuff gets out for a reason, and you just have to you have to answer for what your team is doing. You have to be accountable for your whole team. Like, that's part of this thing. And again, like, if he doesn't do it, like, frankly, for me, like, I don't have as much of an issue with it. I think for me that kind of like like that solders the fact that this team just might not be ready, and that's okay. You made back-to-back conference finals. They'll grow from it. They'll learn from it. Um, but it shows to me, like, from the top down, like, just maybe need a little bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, just think like would LeBron ever skip media? That seems unlikely. Would Halliburton? He did, I guess, but like I'm trying to think of Curry would never skip media. Like these are the type of players he looks. Durant is won the media good guy award that they gave out. I don't know. I'm willing to move off it just because I really think people don't like the average fan doesn't care. I think it hurts them because you don't get the quotes, you don't get what the player is thinking. Like you we all read and listen. A lot of people and people's coverage suffers because of stuff like this. But I think like on the surface level, I think people just like kind of don't care. Um,
He did go after game one, and I would give him credit for that. But again, I would point to the person who's three lockers down from him in the locker room, and Rudy. Where, I mean, if there is somebody who has the right to decline to speak to the media on given nights where he finishes with maybe 3 points, 2 rebounds, and gets in foul trouble and is dragged all over social media for his play on the floor that night. I mean, he talks every single time. There's never been a time where Rudy Gobert has declined to speak to the media. Um, and I specifically recall an incredibly tough game they had. Maybe it was against Philadelphia in March. It was either a February or a March game where he was completely down in the dumps. Like, it was like a unbelievably bad game for him. Um, he did a media availability for about 8 minutes. Um, PR cut it off afterwards, and I was able to get a question in even after he cut it off, and people had kind of moved off of him. And he sat there and he answered the question despite just being completely, shut off after that game. And that, to me, for someone who's at this point been reduced to a role player, and we talked about a little bit of, is he around next year? Is he not? Like, we'll see. Um, but that's a professional player. Like, that's someone who, like, for as much shit as he takes for his political views, like whatever it might be. Like, and I would likely agree with you on a lot of those things. Um, but that's it's when you're a professional basketball player and you are asked to and you are requested for media availability. He's someone who has who has a lot of rights to say no. I don't want to talk to you guys tonight. Like this is kind of bullshit. Um, I feel like Ant is less so, and especially too as someone who is going to be here for at minimum another 4 years. Um, just go to the podium, answer for your team. What went wrong? What went right?
Don't answer. Just go and say, like, give
Show
one word
face.
answers.
Show
You
face,
don't.
but be a leader. Yeah, lead the team. Lead the team. It's what they need right now. In the public eye and in the locker room. Like lead the team. And if you're not ready for that at this point in time, that's fine. Um, you'll be back. I would imagine at some point very soon. Um, but to me, that like it's just kind of a microcosm at this point in time of perhaps that signals that this team just isn't quite there yet, and that's okay.
Yep. Um, on the court, though, my kind of analysis of his game is I thought he played fairly well. If you'd have told me he had 32 points on 26 shots with 9 rebounds, 6 assists, no turnovers, I would have assumed the Wolves had a pretty darn good chance of winning that game. So I thought he played well, and I also weirdly thought they just kind of need more from him on the court. And I kind of think that's almost a little bit unfair to put that on any player's shoulders. But ultimately, he's getting outplayed by Shea, and I just think that it's got to be at least even between those two players, if not Ant outplaying him for the win this series. And maybe given the state of each defense, that's unfair to expect of Ant. But I also just kind of think if that is unfair to expect of him, they're going to lose this series. So
He's getting outplayed by Shea, but I think as of right now, where I would lean is this has been a battle and decisive win for Oklahoma City in the front court and on the bench. And as much as we want to make it about Shea and Ant, like Shea has been good. Like the fouls are easy to complain about.
he was good tonight, just
Despite
regardless
the
of the
does not
whistles.
matter tonight. Like tonight did not matter about the whistle. Like I don't care
And
about.
let me check how many he didn't have. He had 6 free throws before
I
the
don't
game got out of hand, so it
I
wasn't.
don't care about the whistle tonight. Like tonight is completely like I don't care about the whistle tonight.
The annoying fouls happened after the game was over.
Game
Honestly,
one, for sure. And game one is like game one. Sure, annoying fouls happened. It would have maybe brought the game from 20 to 10 at some points, but like let's stop with that. At this point in time, the Thunder have played better. Their benches played better. Their bench showed up. Kenrich Williams played better in game one than any of the Wolves bench players. That should say plenty.
oh, I knew they
Um,
were losing that game when Kendrick Williams hit a contested two. I'm like, okay, well,
yeah, exactly. I think what the Thunder bench went 10 of 16 from three. I think that was the final number from game one. Um, the bench has been better. Their front court's been better, and that's it. Like that's the story of this series. And the front court is the Wolves' strong suit. You have three guys who should be elite at what they do, who can dynamically start and close games, depending on what the game needs. That needs to be your strong suit. If the game is faster against a team like Oklahoma City, you should be able to be elite with Nas and Julius in your front court and hit shots and play good enough defense to be able to outscore them. If it's a more set game, if it's a more set defensive game, you should be able to put Rudy in there and you should be able to close games out with your defense. That has not happened. It just has not happened. And between the first two series, you were able to do that and you were able to, because of that, get by with bad performances from your bench. But you now cannot have both, especially against a team like Oklahoma City, who, like you, is 1 through 8 strong. And that's what's happened, unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's what's happened, and they've been outplayed in the front court and backcourt. Ant and Shea, like it is what it is, and Shea was unbelievable for especially the first 3 quarters. I think he was the one who kind of staved off the Wolves when they would try to make a run.
mhm.
Um, but it's the bench in the front court. That's the story of the series, and depending on whatever way it goes, if the tides turn and the Wolves win in 7, great. It will be because of the front court and the bench. It will not be because of Ant.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of interesting, like, big picture thoughts about this series, this game, this playoff run, but I kind of want to hold off on that until the series is actually over or the Wolves season is actually over because we're gonna have months to to break that down, and I do think that there's still I think there's a good chance that there's a lot of fun basketball left in the series. Um, I do think the Wolves have a chance. It is slim, it is unlikely, and it will probably require a bit of, if you want to call it luck, or the other team playing poorly, or and it's certainly going to start with just like making shots and playing better, which should hopefully happen at Target Center. I don't think it's impossible that they could win the next two in a row. Um, Coming down from 3-1, if they do split the two home games, seems unlikely. It would be very Wolves to split the home games, win game five, and then lose in six. That feels very Wolvesy. Um, but I put, especially because like I want to see what the home games look like, at least one of them, before we really like start putting on our black clothing for a funeral here.
My
But
pants, the black pants are on. I'll put it that way. The black pants are on. The shirt and the hood are off for now. But I've started to put the clothing on a little bit.
yeah,
I haven't liked what I've seen the first two games. And the other thing too is like, can we talk? Have you how much have you talked about Mike Conley before I jumped on?
yeah, I did mention, I might mention him, like they are just not running good offense without him on the court. They get outscored by 29 with him on the
Plus
bench.
14 tonight.
I
The only player on the Wolves team in the plus, and he's plus 14. And also too,
I
I think I saw Dane's tweet where it was like they're plus 17 with him on the floor and minus 59 with him off.
Oof. Yeah. But the thing was is like OKC's also attacking him on defense, and that's kind of happened all year with good teams that are trying to win basketball games. Where with Mike and Rudy, it kind of feels like with Rudy they can't score with him on, but can't defend with him off. And Mike is kind of the inverse, where their defense suffers with him on the court, but he's such a big piece of their offense. And during the regular season, I think that dynamic like balances each other out, where Mike or Rudy covers up for some of the Mike defense stuff, and Mike is able to help the offense even with Rudy on the court. And what this series has felt like is the opposite, where both of the negatives are outweighing each other's positive, where they're not really able to score well enough because of Rudy, and they're still getting killed defensively, not because of Mike, but Mike's. You theoretically would be better off with defensively with like Nikhil or Dante. So
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But it's still interesting though. I mean, it was a decisively minus game for everybody in the Wolves rotation except for Mike, who finished with a plus 14.
yeah, what I
And
think, if
it
you have
plus
a
minus can be deceiving. And I'm with you that I think, Oklahoma City did a nice job attacking him defensively. I think especially like dragging him into the paint and getting him in uncomfortable situations. I think Jalen Williams was specifically one who kind of put him um, on an island when he was
Mhm.
switched onto him. Um, but at the end of the day, like Mike Conley was the safety blanket during the regular season. He was not the organizer. Like he's an organizer. He was a safety blanket during the regular season, but the offense didn't die with him off the like it wasn't completely dead off the floor. And so what this coaching staff needs to do between game 2 and game 3 is figure out what was Mike doing? Like what were the actions that were being run with Mike on the floor that were successful? Because I do think that like the Wolves have found success with Dante and Nikhil bringing the ball up the floor and just initiating actions and initiating sets. Like what can you find that can get you into successful positions to get open shots? Um, because at the end of the day, if you can get open shots, go down with the ship and shoot the basketball. Um,
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from game one. People were like, and I think they did do a better job of getting in the paint. But as far as like shot choice, I don't think like reducing the number of threes is when they're open. That's not. I thought Ant pumped out of a couple of threes that I would have liked to see him take, even with him being 1 of 9. I don't care that if
Shoot the
you're one of
rock.
nine, one of
Shoot the
nine.
rock. You're you're
A
you
late contest three from the corner is a good shot. Put it up.
You're all NBA
Um,
players. You're all NBA basketball players. You all can shoot threes at a proficient level.
and
Shoot the rock.
if they were favorites, maybe like have shooting this many threes and playing the variance game would be bad. But like if you're underdog, you want the like the high variance stuff is going to pull you closer to 50-50. Like, I don't know. I, I would keep shooting it. That's my, if they're open.
Couldn't
And
agree more.
I thought almost all of them were either open or ones you want to take. Let's, before we close, let's think about what if the Wolves are going to find success in this series. What is like one big change that they can do? Because I don't think like trying to fiddle on the margins is going to be enough. And my biggest thing would be hard double Shay, like you did in that one crazy comeback. Make others beat you, and there's a likely chance or a probable chance that they just do.
Well, that was
I
successful for a period tonight when
mm-hmm.
they hard doubled Shea late in the game. There
And
was
then
success there.
with a couple minutes left, Jalen Williams hit an open three, and that ended the game. And so I just think, especially at Target Center where role players on the road tend to perform lesser, I would be hard doubling Shea, get it out of his hands, and if the back and this is going to require better defense than we saw tonight to have rotations that are on point. But if they're going to hit, if the Ludorts, the Holmgrens from outside, those type, if they're going to hit open threes, then you're probably just toast.
That's it.
That to me, you don't have anything left to lose. It's kind of like one a baseball analogy. I always get frustrated when there's a walk in the ninth inning when you're up by more than one run, where a home run doesn't really hurt you. It's like throw it down the middle. And I think that to me, doubling Shea is like the throw it down the middle. You're already like you got nothing to lose. You can't have a walk. Like let's try to it's like you're yeah, you know they're gonna hit it, but just hope the line drive goes right at the left fielder or whatever. Like that'd be my adjustment I'd want to see him make.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that hard doubling Shea is again like we said, it's like late in the game it worked. Like it actually did. Like it generated some misses. It generated a
Mm-hmm.
couple turnovers there. Like it's not like that. It's not like that's a completely lost cause. So I'm with you on that. I think for me, like I would give up some transition points if it meant more crashing of the glass. Um, I think that you need like you have had 2 week of rebounding performances so far
Mm-hmm.
in this series to continue to do what you are doing. Um, I think Oklahoma City tonight. Let me look at the game chart real quick. Um, I mean, you had a weak rebounding performance, and your fast break points were 16-9. Um, if your fast break points next game, and I know that it's iffy on fast break points in general. Like what is that as a stat? But if fast break points were 20-9 next game, but you're able to generate 10 offense or 10 rebounds for multiple people on the team, I think that's a win. I think ultimately that's a profitable thing. Um, but right now you're stuck in the middle and you have multiple people crashing the glass, and then Oklahoma City is getting out and running and getting some pretty easy buckets. So if you have intentional, like 3 intentional people crashing the glass with 2 people getting back in transition, I think that can be pretty profitable. I think at this point in time, spare yourself on the glass and allow fast break points if you really need to. Um, and take your chances and roll the dice there. But you just have to rebound better. You cannot keep rebounding like this and expect. I mean, you're going to get swept if you keep rebounding like this. Frankly, in my mind, it's been abysmal these first 2 games.
Yep. Pretty much what I came in here saying is the Wolves are getting outplayed in almost every single category across the stat sheet. So they gotta do something. And
Play better.
rebounding's one, free throws, shooting the ball, just something.
Play
Um,
better. It's what you come to this podcast for. The groundbreaking analysis. Play better.
yeah. Well, Andrew and I will be back on Saturday night. One or both of us on the live stream at Target Center. We're hoping it's not like we said. We got our like to continue the broken analogy further. Like I've put on the white T-shirt, which goes with like I can put on a dress shirt over top of it, or I've got the hoodie in the back of the car to throw over the white T-shirt too. If we're gonna still party here, but uh, we'll see what Game 3 holds. It'll be a big one if you win. You got a chance to bring this series back. Even if you lose, we're hoping to be the 04 Red Sox at that point. But Yeah, thanks for joining me, Andrew. I know you had your own personal life tonight, but I appreciate you rushing home for me, and we'll see everyone Saturday night.
Wouldn't miss it, Ryan.
Thank you. Go Wolves.